5 days before the wedding, my fiancée, Susanna, spent $30 million to purchase a private vineyard in the south of France for her lover. I tossed the engagement ring we had carefully picked together into the furnace. For days before the wedding, Susanna donned her custom-made gown and enjoyed the night view of the Seine in Paris with Bruno. I ordered the removal of the piano I had handcrafted for her on our balcony. Today, Susanna stood in the early spring drizzle, kissing Bruno in a passionate embrace. I handed a breakup letter to her parents. I had decided to let go and bless the loving couple. I'm not worthy of Susanna. Uncle, Aunt, please let her go. Chapter 1. Raphael, is there some misunderstanding between you and Susanna? Mrs. Lynn held a teacup, her eyes flickering. The wedding is approaching. Why call it off so suddenly? Mrs. Lynn couldn't quite suppress the smile at the corners of her mouth, though she feigned concern on the surface. I knew very well if it hadn't been for their desperation to gain support from my family back then, they would never have agreed to the engagement between Susanna and me. To them, their precious daughter deserved someone far more dazzling than a mere architect who worked behind the scenes. Now, with Bruno, the celebrated international photography master, suddenly stepping into the picture, it was everything they could have hoped for. It's not a misunderstanding, just a clash in values, a simple excuse. Mrs. Lynn gladly accepted the proposal to call off the engagement. She smiled broadly as she walked me to the door. When I returned to the apartment, the room was empty, devoid of any trace of life. It wasn't until deep into the night that I heard the lock turn and Susanna finally came home. She had just ended her so-called design research trip, in reality a romantic getaway with Bruno, and she came back with gifts. A wedding gift I prepared in advance. Do you like it? She pulled out a pair of handmade leather shoes from a delicate package, handing them to me with a gentle smile. This brand of shoes was a regular gift she gave me. During Bruno's last visit, he had casually let slip that this was a complimentary pair from a top-tier Italian shoemaker, and that main collection Susanna had ordered countless pairs for Bruno. I was wondering where those freebies went. So you had them all along? Susanna really knows how to run a household. Bruno's smug tone and expression were still vivid in my mind. I looked up at Susanna, my voice calm as water. You even remembered to bring me back a gift from your sweet trip with Bruno. How thoughtful of you. Her expression froze, then quickly shifted into irritation. I was just helping him complete a photography project. Don't overthink it. I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Do whatever you want. Don't bother worrying about my feelings. At those words, Susanna's face instantly darkened. If you keep up this sarcasm, the wedding's off. Threatening me with the wedding. No surprise there. After all, this wedding had always been something I fought for alone for 6 years. Marrying her had been my obsession, but she had never looked forward to it, not truly. If that's the case, perhaps it's time we both stopped pretending. I was about to bring up the breakup, but she turned around and went straight into the bedroom, leaving only the slam of the door echoing in the air. Chasing after her again, apologizing shamelessly like before? No, I was tired of playing that role. I turned and headed to the guest room, lying down alone. Ever since Bruno entered her life 2.5 years ago, we had lived in separate rooms, and ever since then, she had stopped seeing me. I had gradually gotten used to feeling invisible. The next morning, Susanna did something rare. She cooked. Try this truffle oatmeal porridge. I got up at 5 to make it. She looked at me with anticipation. I took the bowl and had a bite. It's good. Her face lit up. She quickly packed the rest into a thermal bag. Even you think it's good, and you're so picky. Bruno will definitely love it. Before I could respond, she had already grabbed her bag and rushed out the door. I stood there in silence, staring at the empty living room, feeling for once strangely at peace. Chapter 2. An hour later, I walked into the HR department and submitted my resignation. The HR manager, unaware of my relationship with Susanna, processed the paperwork without delay. During the 6 years I was with Susanna, no one at the Design Institute ever knew we were together. She insisted on keeping our relationship private, citing the need to avoid industry gossip. Yet, she was inseparable from Bruno, openly affectionate. Everyone in the field assumed they were a couple. Susanna never once clarified. On the contrary, she only grew more intimate with him in public appearances. That afternoon, as I passed by Susanna's studio, I accidentally overheard her voice through the half-open glass door. I saw her gently feed a delicate dessert into Bruno's mouth, her eyes full of tenderness. "Look at you, eating like a greedy little kid." Susanna wiped the cream from the corner of his lips with soft fingers. They were close, too close. Bruno noticed me standing outside. A flicker of smugness flashed in his eyes. Next second, he leaned in and pressed a kiss to Susanna's lips. Her cheeks instantly turned red. Her body stiffened for a second, but the corners of her mouth couldn't help but lift in a smile. I had no interest in continuing to watch this scene. I turned away and focused on wrapping up my final work projects. By evening, my assistant walked into my office with an elegantly wrapped box of sweets. "President, these are handmade Belgian chocolates from Bruno." He had one prepared for everyone in the company. After setting the box down, my gossip-loving assistant didn't leave right away. "I heard Miss Lynn flew to Belgium especially to get them for Bruno's birthday last week. She left at 4 a.m. to make it happen. Bruno's really lucky to have such a talented and loving woman doting on him." Suddenly, I remembered Bruno's birthday had been on the 20th last week. That was the day I had just returned from an overseas inspection and had to be hospitalized due to a persistent high fever. I had called Susanna only to be met with her impatient reply, "I'm working on a design draft. If it's not urgent, let's talk tomorrow. Don't interrupt me." Another carefully constructed lie. The assistant kept rambling. "President, I really think this wasn't just an ordinary gift. It feels like a prelude to something big. I bet Miss Lynn and Bruno are about to make it official." I forced a faint smile. It's only natural for lovers to end up together. At dusk, I saw Susanna and Bruno leave the creative park together. I asked no questions. I returned to the apartment alone, had a simple meal, and packed my luggage. After washing up, I habitually opened social media. Bruno had just posted a new update, enjoying a vintage camera exhibit with my muse. In the photo, he stood in a retro shop, admiring antique cameras. Next to him, Susanna beamed with a radiant smile. I used to be passionate about collecting antique cameras, but Susanna always scoffed at it. Every time I brought a new piece home, she'd greet me with biting sarcasm. "Obsessed with these outdated gadgets? What a waste of time and money. Can you grow some modern taste? What's so great about those dusty relics?" Eventually, she even accidentally broke my treasured Leica M3. It was beyond repair. Now, with Bruno, she'd suddenly developed a deep fascination for antique cameras. A trace of bitterness rose in my chest. I turned off my screen and closed my eyes, not wanting to dwell on it any longer. Chapter 3. In the middle of the night, a sudden chill woke me. When I opened my eyes, Susanna was standing by the bed, expressionless, lifting my blanket. Outside the window, the city lights flickered faintly. The clock read 2:15 a.m. Bruno's in the living room. "He's staying over tonight. Go sleep in the study." Her tone allowed no room for argument, like she was ordering a servant. Why should I give up my own room? Faced with my rare resistance, Susanna's brows furrowed, her tone turning colder. "Bruno just got back from Northern Europe. He hasn't adjusted to the time difference and isn't feeling well. What's wrong with letting him stay the night? Can't you show a little compassion?" I looked her in the eye. "There are plenty of hotels, or he could share a room with you." The moment the words left my mouth, her face darkened. "What are you implying? Bruno and I are strictly professional. It's not the sordid relationship you think it is. You always do this, take something trivial and blow it out of proportion. Can't you grow up?" I wanted to argue back, but the moment our eyes met, I couldn't say a word. The eyes that once brimmed with affection now held only irritation and fury. I suddenly understood. Love is in the eyes of those who choose you, and in hers, there was now only Bruno. Why keep humiliating myself? I'm tired. For simple words carried the weight of 6 years of emotional exhaustion. A soft knock came from the door. Bruno stepped in, looking apologetic. "Susanna, forget it. The director's probably had a long day. I'll just sleep on the couch." Susanna scoffed, shot me a glance, then pulled Bruno away. As the door closed, I heard her softly reassuring him. "Don't mind him, Bruno. He's always like that, petty and oversensitive. Just sleep in my room tonight." Sleep was no longer possible. I lay in bed, tossing and turning. From the room next door, I could hear their murmured conversations and occasional laughter. A while later, my phone vibrated. It was a voice message from Bruno. In the recording, Susanna was telling him a bedtime story in a syrupy, gentle voice, so soft it felt like it belonged to someone else. But I felt oddly calm, as if none of it had anything to do with me anymore. About half an hour later, the bedroom door opened again. Susanna slipped into bed quietly and wrapped her arms around me from behind. Bruno's asleep. Her voice was soft as silk. Her fingers gently held my hand. Raphael, so much has happened lately. Once things settle down, I'll explain everything properly. Let's stop sleeping in separate rooms, okay? I had brought up the separate room issue countless times before. She always brushed it off with vague excuses. We'll see. I echoed her usual dismissive phrase. I could feel her body instantly tense. After a long silence, her hands began to move, trying to stir some physical response in me. As I felt her warmth, memories surged like a flood. So many times she had trampled on my dignity for Bruno, disregarded my existence, and ignored my feelings. Why should I keep enduring this? Why did my 6 years of devotion mean less than Bruno's 2 years of flirtation and fantasy? Everything I had suppressed erupted in that moment. I suddenly rolled over and kissed her fiercely, almost violently. The force of it pushed her clothes aside, revealing a fresh love bite below her collarbone, bright red like blood. At the same time, a strong, unfamiliar cologne clung to my nose, Bruno's signature scent. My stomach turned. I shoved her away, ignoring her shocked cries and desperate grasp. I grabbed a blanket and stormed out of the room. Bruno, you win. You've won it all. Chapter 4. I spent the night on the living room couch. When I woke up, the apartment was empty. Susanna had left at some point without a word. I checked my phone's calendar. Today was the day I had planned to leave. Before I left, I wanted a clean break. No more ambiguity, no loose ends. I made a reservation at that Japanese restaurant, the very place where I first met her 6 years ago. After we got together, we used to celebrate our anniversary there every year, until Bruno showed up and shattered the tradition. At dusk, Susanna came home. I was just about to bring up the dinner reservation when a loud slap interrupted my thoughts. Raphael, how could you be so despicable? Before I could even react, Bruno walked out of the bedroom, clutching his right cheek, blood at the corner of his mouth. President Raphael, I swear I'll never appear in front of Susanna again. In an instant, I saw through their orchestrated performance. Susanna rushed to support Bruno and turned to me with eyes blazing. I always thought you were just a little possessive and jealous, but I never imagined you'd be so cruel. I watched the farce unfold, my voice cold as ice. I didn't touch him. My short denial only infuriated her more. You and Bruno were the only ones home. If it wasn't you, then who? I know exactly what kind of person you are. Every word from her mouth was a dagger, cutting into my heart. After 6 years together, we were supposed to understand each other better than anyone else. Yet now she condemned me outright based solely on Bruno's side of the story. Bruno let out a pained groan, drawing Susanna's attention instantly. You think staying silent will fix this? Apologize to Bruno now, otherwise I'll cancel the wedding next week. I stared into her cold eyes and replied calmly. Then cancel it. A flicker of shock crossed her face, quickly replaced by disdain. You think I won't? The invitations are already sent. My parents are counting the days to having a grandchild. You really think I won't go through with it? Watch closely. She pulled out her phone, dialed a number, and pressed the speaker button for effect. Mom, I've decided to call off the wedding with Raphael. Please inform the rest of the family. When she hung up, she looked at me smugly, as if victory was already hers. I'll give you one last chance. Apologize to Bruno, and I'll take it back. Her mother's voice cut her off on the other end. The wedding was already canceled. Didn't you know? Raphael came by 2 days ago to explain everything. Chapter 5. Susanna froze on the spot, her eyes locked on mine as if trying to confirm whether she'd misheard. You've already called off the engagement? I nodded slightly, my gaze calm. Raphael, how dare you do something like this behind my back? Explain yourself. But arguing would only bring more pointless pain. I picked up my suitcase, already packed and ready, and turned to leave. Behind me, Susanna's furious shouting echoed through the apartment. Stop! Where are you going? Get back here. She took a few steps to chase after me, but just then Bruno let out another groan from the bedroom. Her steps faltered. After a moment's hesitation, she turned around to care for Bruno instead. I drove back to my family estate and told my parents I had ended the engagement. They weren't surprised. Immediately, they arranged a more suitable match for me. My family holds deep roots in the architecture world. I had chosen independence only to support Susanna's career. Now, marriage registration and wedding plans moved forward in an orderly fashion. In high society marriages, it's all about status and compatibility. Efficiency is key, emotions are secondary. In just a month and a half, the memories of 6 years began to fade. The woman who once occupied my heart became a distant shadow. On the first weekend after the wedding, I was enjoying a quiet morning at our new home. Suddenly, the doorbell rang urgently, shattering the peace. Just a second, coming. When I opened the door, I froze. Standing there was Susanna. She looked haggard, her eyes red-rimmed, the scent of alcohol clinging to her. The moment our eyes met, hers welled with tears. "Why have you been hiding from me? Do you know how long I've been looking for you?" Her voice trembled but couldn't hide the anger behind it. I wasn't hiding. Somehow my calm response struck her like a spark to gasoline. Susanna suddenly grabbed my collar and yanked me close. "You disappeared just to force me into agreeing to marry you, didn't you? Fine, I'll marry you. But you have to apologize to Bruno first. And after we're married, you're not allowed to interfere with my work with him." I gently removed her hands from my shirt. "You're mistaken, and I can't marry you anymore." She froze, confusion flashing in her eyes. "Why not?" I pulled a marriage certificate from my pocket and held it out to her. "Because bigamy is illegal." Susanna stared at the document, her expression shifting from shock to disbelief. Then she lost control. "No, that's impossible. This has to be fake." "It's fake, isn't it?" Watching her break down, I felt nothing but exhaustion. The tenderness I once held for her had long since vanished. At that moment, the bedroom door opened and my new wife, Tiffany, came out in her loungewear. "What's going on? Who's at the door? It's so noisy this early in the morning." I turned to explain, but Susanna suddenly stormed into the house. She grabbed Tiffany's hair violently, her face twisted in rage. "You slut! You seduced my fiancé. Get away from him. He's mine. He promised to marry me. What right do you have to come between us?" I rushed forward and grabbed Susanna's wrist tightly. "Are you insane? Let go." While she was slightly off balance, I shoved her hard. She stumbled and fell to the floor. Chapter 6. Susanna sat on the floor in shock, staring at me in disbelief. "Raphael, did you just push me for this woman?" I ignored her question and turned to Tiffany, my voice gentle with concern. "Are you hurt?" Tiffany smoothed her disheveled hair and shook her head slightly. "I'm fine. Is this your ex?" I nodded. "Yes. Go back and rest. I'll handle this." Tiffany looked up at me, a calm smile playing on her lips. "No need. I'm actually a little curious about your ex." Before I could react, she walked straight over to Susanna, who was still on the floor. Susanna moved as if to lash out again, but I stepped in immediately to block her. "Susanna, please have some respect. This is my home, not your outlet for emotional outbursts." Seeing me defend Tiffany so directly, a flicker of panic flashed in Susanna's eyes. "Raphael, what's that supposed to mean? Tell me the truth. Did you break up with me because of her? Did she come between us?" I looked straight at Susanna, unshaken. The end of our engagement had nothing to do with Tiffany. "Now please leave our home. You're not welcome here." Faced with my resolute tone, Susanna slowly stood up, her gaze filled with resentment. "Raphael, are you sure you want to treat me like this?" Without hesitation, I replied, "Yes." Susanna bit her lip hard and nodded. "Fine, Raphael. You'll regret this decision." She threw those words over her shoulder and walked toward the door. Just as she was about to step across the threshold, Tiffany's voice called out behind her. "Please don't come bother my husband again. I'm the jealous type. Thanks for understanding." Before her words had fully landed, the door shut. I turned to Tiffany, and a smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. "Hungry? I'll make us breakfast." Tiffany stepped closer, nestling softly into my arms, and nodded sweetly. I thought the mess with Susanna was behind us, but 4 weeks later she appeared again. This time, at the Future of the City Architectural Forum I was hosting. "I heard your eco-architecture concept won a major award," she said, handing me a finely wrapped gift box. "Thought I'd come to congratulate you." I said nothing. She added quickly, "What? Not even a hello for an old friend?" Just as I hesitated, Tiffany gracefully emerged from the crowd and naturally slipped her arm through mine. "We're glad you came to support my husband's vision for sustainable architecture," she said warmly. her smile perfect. The word husband hit Susanna like a hammer. Her face paled instantly. Forcing a composed expression, she shoved the gift into my hands and hurried into the venue. I was about to leave when I caught sight of a familiar and unwelcome figure, Bruno, walking toward us. He glanced at me with that same smug expression I'd seen too many times before. Designer Raphael, long time no see. He nodded slightly, then his tone turned sharp. 6 years, just like smoke and wind. Susanna? It was always mine to begin with. My advice, bow out now before things get uglier. Why humiliate yourself any further? Don't even realize you're the one wearing the clown hat. I chuckled, speechless at his audacity. Clearly, Susanna hadn't told him a word about our breakup. I didn't bother correcting him. I simply replied, "The forum's about to start, feel free to look around." Bruno sneered and strode confidently into the center of the hall. Chapter 7. After Bruno walked away, I opened the exquisite gift box Susanna had brought. Inside was a limited edition fountain pen, an ebony barrel, 18K gold nib, laid with tiny sapphires. As I stared at it, memories surged like a tide, pulling me back to that autumn day 3 years ago. I'd always preferred using fountain pens to sketch design drafts. One day, Susanna asked to borrow my heirloom Mont Blanc. At the time, I was deeply in love with her and handed it over without hesitation. But that pen, filled with family memories, never returned to my case. Months later, I learned the truth. Susanna had lent it to Bruno. Apparently, Bruno was participating in a calligraphy competition. That pen, a rare piece passed down from my grandfather, was well known in the design circle. To enter with it in hand was to carry invisible prestige. Unfortunately, after the competition, the pen vanished. That night, Susanna came back to the apartment, soaked in rain. I was distressed and dried her hair, made her hot tea. She hugged me, tearful, and apologized, saying the pen had been lost. It had been a gift from my grandfather on his deathbed, a symbol I'd cherished, but in that moment, I cared more for the woman in my arms than any object. So I chose to forgive. That night, she promised to find me a replacement, but over the years, she showered Bruno with countless luxuries, yet somehow always forgot that promise. From beginning to end, I had been nothing more than a pitiful supporting role. Once, a gift like this would have thrilled me. Now it stirred nothing. Besides, as a wedding gift, Tiffany had already given me the same pen, only in an even rarer platinum version. I closed the box and walked through the crowd in search of Susanna. I found her talking with Bruno in a quiet corner of the exhibition hall. When she saw me approaching, she instinctively paused her conversation and gave a flattering smile. "Raphael, you came over. How's the exhibition going?" I handed the box back to her. "Thank you for the thought, but I can't accept this gift." Susanna's smile faltered. I pulled a fountain pen from my suit pocket, almost identical to the one she gave me, except for a platinum band near the grip. Her expression froze. After a moment, she asked stiffly, Who gave you that?" Just as I was about to reply, Tiffany stepped gracefully to my side. "It was my wedding gift to him," she said with a serene smile. "Custom made." Hearing this, Bruno's reaction was far more dramatic than Susanna's. "Wedding?" His voice rose an octave. "Raphael, you're getting married?" I shook my head slightly, seeing that he looked relieved, until I added, "Not getting married, already married." "Allow me to introduce," I said, turning to Tiffany. "This is Tiffany, chief cardiac surgeon, and my wife." Bruno's eyes widened in disbelief. You with Susanna? How did this even happen?" I cut him off. "Didn't Susanna tell you we broke up over a month ago? I thought she was devoted to you. Didn't she mention it?" The moment I finished, Bruno turned to Susanna, eyebrows tightly furrowed. Susanna stayed silent for a long while before mumbling, "Yes, we did break up." When Bruno pressed, "About 6 weeks ago," a look of barely concealed joy surfaced on his face. After all, he had always hoped Susanna and I would part ways. Now he had gotten exactly what he wanted. But when he reached out to pull Susanna close, she subtly stepped aside. "What's wrong? Why are you avoiding me?" Bruno asked, puzzled. Susanna looked dazed for a moment, then snapped back, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to rest." Before her words had fully landed, she turned and walked away, leaving Bruno standing there bewildered. Moments later, he hurried after her. I turned to Tiffany. "The forum's starting. Let's go on stage." With that, I took her hand, and we walked toward the podium together. I thanked the audience, expressing gratitude for their support of sustainable architecture. Applause thundered through the room, except from the corner where Susanna stood, expression dim, clutching the rejected gift box tightly in her hands. Once, seeing her like that would have torn me apart. I would have run to her without a second thought. But now my heart was still. All I wanted was to treasure the woman beside me and build a life worth keeping. Chapter 8. After the architecture forum ended, Susanna stopped me in the parking lot. Under the streetlights, her shadow stretched long in the darkness, her eyes shimmering with tears. "Raphael," she said, "can you just tell me, is all of this your way of getting revenge? I just can't believe you could end 6 years of love so easily. If this is punishment, then say so. I'll do anything to make it right. Just don't treat me like this, please. Every day since you left, I've been unable to sleep. The longing is like a tide that keeps drowning me." As she spoke, she tried to take my hand, tears running down her cheeks. Even now, she still believed this was some twisted game. Just like always, she was self-centered, focused only on her own feelings, never truly considering mine. What a pity, even after all this time apart, her nature hadn't changed. I took a deep breath and said, calm but firm, "Susanna, I've already made myself clear. Our relationship is over. This wasn't some impulsive decision. It was something I thought through carefully. I have a family now, please respect that. Your refusal to let go only causes discomfort for my wife. And besides, Bruno loves you deeply. Maybe the two of you are actually better suited." The moment I mentioned Bruno, Susanna shook her head violently, flinging off a trail of tears. "That's not true. I don't feel that way about Bruno. I've completely forgotten him. The only person I've ever had in my heart is you, always you." Once, I might have believed she meant it. If she had truly felt that way back then, we wouldn't have ended up here. But now it was far too late. Just as I was about to respond, I saw Tiffany in the distance, walking toward me with my parents behind her. My father's face darkened the moment he saw me alone with Susanna. "Raphael, didn't we agree you'd cherish Tiffany? Why are you still tangled up with this woman?" I rushed to explain. "It's not what you think. I was just out picking a gift for Tiffany. Today's forum was only a success because of her support behind the scenes." As I spoke, I took a small velvet box from my pocket and opened it. Inside was a platinum bracelet set with diamonds. I gently took Tiffany's hand and helped her put it on. Tiffany looked at the bracelet and smiled softly at my parents. "Mom, Dad, don't worry. Raphael treats me very well." Hearing their daughter-in-law's words, my parents finally relaxed and turned to leave. But Susanna suddenly lost all composure. She clutched my arm, her voice bordering on desperation. "Raphael, please tell me what I have to do to earn your forgiveness." At that moment, I had no desire to explain anything further. No matter how clearly I spoke, she refused to accept reality. That was always her way, clinging to her goals, never backing down. But I was tired of the endless drama. I took Tiffany's hand and, in front of Susanna, kissed her lips gently. "Please don't disturb our life again." Leaving those words behind, I turned with Tiffany and walked away. From the rearview mirror, I saw Susanna standing motionless in place, tears silently falling, but she didn't move. That night, a trending topic caught my attention on social media. Designer Susanna engaged to photographer Bruno. I clicked the headline and saw photos of Susanna and Bruno holding an engagement ceremony at an upscale hotel. I sent Susanna a short message, wishing you both happiness. She never replied. I turned off my phone, ready for bed, just as Tiffany curled into my arms. "Darling, the forum was a complete success. Congratulations." Looking at Tiffany's elegant and gentle face, a wave of warmth spread through my chest. I said nothing more, turned off the lights, and held her close, kissing her deeply. Chapter 9. The following evening, as I was leaving the studio, I noticed the public art plaza across the street was covered in hundreds, perhaps thousands, of white lilies. Clearly, it was a meticulously staged marriage proposal. I was about to take a detour when a colleague enthusiastically tugged my arm. "Come take a look. I heard it's going to be a grand proposal. Might bring us some good luck." With no particular interest, I followed them into the sea of flowers. The couple hadn't appeared yet, but dozens of media outlets were already gathered on site. "This setup's intense," I said casually. "Who invited all the reporters?" The proposal arranged it. They want the whole thing live streamed so the world can witness the romance. That piqued my curiosity, but just 10 minutes later, when Susanna walked out from the center of the floral display in a white gown, that curiosity vanished in an instant. Without hesitation, I turned to leave. "Raphael," she called out loudly, "please wait. I have something to say." Suddenly, every head turned in my direction. Cameras flashed nonstop. Clearly, all of this had been part of her plan. She chose the plaza directly across from my workplace, the timing exactly when I got off work, every detail calculated. In me, I had become nothing more than a background character in her script. At that point, leaving was no longer an option. The crowd had surrounded me. All I could do was stand there, expressionless, and let her finish her performance. Seeing that I hadn't walked away, Susanna approached with a smile. "Over the past 2 years, you proposed to me 7 times, she said, "and I turned you down every time. That was my mistake. I didn't treasure your love. Today, I created this scene to make up for it. Raphael, will you give me another chance? I don't want to lose you." I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Her obsession had gone far beyond what was reasonable. "Susanna, I've told you countless times already. I'm married. Please stop interfering in my life. My heart belongs to Tiffany. I love her. And besides, aren't you already engaged to Bruno? Please focus on your own relationship. Stop dragging me into this. I'm not interested in your drama. We broke up. Let's keep our distance. It's better for both of us." Tears welled in her eyes as she replied, "That's not what it is. I only got engaged to Bruno to provoke you. I wanted to make you regret losing me. That's all." I stared at her, utterly out of patience. I'm done playing along with this childish act. Just as I turned to leave, I noticed someone at the edge of the crowd, Bruno, who had just arrived. From the look on his face, it was clear he'd heard everything. He stared at Susanna, shock and fury written all over his expression. "Susanna, what did you just say?" Susanna's face went pale the moment she saw him, proclaiming her love for me while trying not to lose Bruno, utterly absurd. She shook her head in a panic. "Bruno, let me explain. It's not what you think." But Bruno let out a bitter laugh. The truth had finally hit him. "Susanna, I was wrong about you. From now on, we're done." He threw the bouquet in his hands to the ground and turned to leave. Susanna rushed after him, trying to grab his arm, but Bruno violently shook her off, sending her stumbling to the ground. What happened after that? I had no interest in knowing. That night, the entire farce exploded across social media. With so many reporters present, it was inevitable. Susanna's actions were fully exposed, and the comments section went wild. This woman, supposed to represent the design industry, playing both sides like a pro, disgusting. Poor Bruno and Raphael, staging your own drama and inviting the press? Was the scandal not big enough already? Ridiculous. Scrolling through the comments, all I could feel was bitter irony. But the moment I opened my front door, what I saw froze me in place. Chapter 10. The apartment was empty. Tiffany was nowhere to be found. The silence in the room was eerie, so still it felt unnatural. A sudden sinking dread seized my chest. I immediately called Tiffany's phone. Connected, but only an automated message played. "The number you dialed is powered off. Please try again later." My heart plummeted. Something had happened to Tiffany. Without hesitation, I called my parents. "Dad, have you heard from Tiffany today?" He paused for a moment. "Tiffany? She called us after work, said she was going to pick you up." Pick me up? But I hadn't seen her at all. I quickly contacted the building management and requested the surveillance footage. The video showed Tiffany leaving our residential compound at 5:05 p.m. I had gone downstairs at 5:40 p.m. She should have already arrived at my studio. I rushed there. The studio security footage confirmed Tiffany had indeed shown up at 5:25 p.m. But moments later, she took a call and left in a hurry. Soon after, the footage showed me heading straight to the proposal scene. Just as my anxiety peaked, my phone rang. It was Tiffany's number. I answered instantly, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. "Darling, could you come to Songphone Pavilion?" "Tiffany, are you okay?" I asked urgently. A soft laugh came through the phone. "I'm fine, just come, okay? I'm on my way." The call ended, and I drove there immediately, but when I arrived, it was Susanna who greeted me, not Tiffany. I rushed toward her, my voice trembling with rage. "Where is Tiffany?" Susanna looked at me, a bitter smile playing at her lips. "So it's true. You really don't have room for me in your heart anymore?" Don't worry, Tiffany is safe. Her words ignited my fury. Take me to her now. It had all been a trap, something Susanna had carefully orchestrated. Never in my life had I imagined she would go this far. You care about her that much? Susanna stepped closer, her eyes gleaming with provocation. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to destroy her. I forced myself to stay composed, my voice cold as steel. Where is Tiffany? Susanna took her time walking up to me. Raphael, why can't you give me one more chance? If Tiffany weren't in the picture, would you come back to me? She reached out to touch me, but I stepped away instantly. You overestimate yourself. I want to see Tiffany. Just then, Tiffany emerged from the inner room. Seeing her safe and unharmed, my tense nerves finally loosened. She walked over to me, and I immediately pulled her into my arms. Are you hurt? Nestled against my chest, she shook her head gently. I'm fine. I just wanted to have a talk with Miss Lynn to make sure she finally stops bothering you. Some things are better said face to face. Hearing that, I finally felt at ease. As we turned to leave, Susanna stood still, gazing at us. Her eyes were glassy with tears, but her smile was heartbreakingly hollow. Raphael, this is the end of the road for us. From now on, I won't disturb your lives again. With that, she turned and walked away, blank and silent. I looked down at Tiffany, concern still written all over my face. Why was your phone off? Do you have any idea how worried I was? Tiffany looked up at me and suddenly laughed. My phone died, sorry. I'll be more careful next time. Actually, I was planning to surprise you. Chapter 11. When I heard the word surprise, something stirred in my chest, and my heartbeat inexplicably quickened. Before I could ask, Tiffany suddenly stood on her toes and gently kissed my lips. Come with me, she whispered. We arrived at our destination, and Tiffany took my hand, leading me straight to the third floor of a hospital. The moment I saw the words obstetric gynecology on the wall, it felt like the blood in my body stopped flowing for a second. After the blood test was done, Tiffany leaned against me in the waiting area. I saw what happened at the plaza, she said softly. Her words made my whole body freeze. You saw everything? I asked, stumbling over my words. Tiffany nodded, intertwining her fingers with mine. Yes. Susanna deliberately arranged for someone to show me the live stream. She wanted to prove that you still had feelings for her. Hearing that, a smile tugged at the corner of my lips. She really overestimated herself. Tiffany, please believe me, there's only you in my heart now. You're my wife. I love only you. Tiffany smiled warmly. Of course I believe you. You stood your ground in front of all those people. You have no idea how much that meant to me. Her eyes glistened as she looked up at me, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. I gently wiped it away. Just then, the doctor approached with the test results. When I saw what was written on the report, joy flooded through me, so overwhelming I forgot to breathe. It wasn't until Tiffany softly called my name that I came back to my senses. I pulled her tightly into my arms, my voice trembling with emotion. Tiffany, I'm going to be a father. She nodded vigorously in my embrace. Yes, you're going to be a dad. On our way home, we couldn't wait to share the news with both our families. From the moment I found out Tiffany was pregnant, I began preparing everything for the baby. Throughout the entire pregnancy, I cared for her meticulously, afraid even the slightest discomfort would affect the child. On the day of delivery, everything went smoothly. We welcomed a baby girl. Her delicate features were a perfect match for Tiffany's childhood photos. Holding my newborn daughter with the woman I love by my side, I felt truly blessed and fulfilled. This hard-earned happiness, I would treasure it with everything I had. Susanna's side story. After that argument with Raphael, he didn't contact me for 3 weeks. At first, I was angry too, and clung to Bruno on purpose. But as time passed, I realized I still couldn't let Raphael go. Every day, I waited for him to apologize like he used to, but this time, he never did. I panicked. I tracked down his new address. What shocked me wasn't a remorseful Raphael, but a marriage certificate with another woman. I couldn't accept it. He used to love me so much. It had to be revenge. He was doing this just to hurt me. He even protected that woman right in front of me. When I left, I hurled out threats, certain he would eventually regret it. But the days went by, and I still heard nothing from him. In desperation, I showed up at his architecture forum. I picked out the exact kind of fountain pen he loved and brought it as a gift, but it was too late. He no longer needed anything from me. Still, I wasn't willing to give up. I couldn't believe that 2 years of love could vanish just like that. He had promised to marry me, to love me for life. If he'd just come back to me. I cut things off with Bruno instantly. At his birthday event, I asked over and over if there was still room for me in his heart. I let go of all my pride, begging for forgiveness. But his reply was cold and final. He said he loved Tiffany, and only her. I didn't believe it. They'd only just gotten married. How could she compare to 2 years of history? So I announced my engagement to Bruno, staged that proposal right outside Raphael's office. I thought if I went that far, he would finally soften. I even contacted Tiffany, made sure she saw me proposing to her husband, told her Raphael still loved me. But I was completely wrong. It had all been my wishful thinking. Raphael rejected me on the spot, without the slightest hesitation. Afterward, I met Tiffany at Songphone Pavilion. Her eyes sparkled with calm confidence. So she asked me, "What is it you want to tell me?" Her composure nearly broke me. Why did Raphael choose you? We were together for 6 years. How did you steal his heart in just 1 month? Tiffany remained calm despite my hysteria. Love doesn't need a why, she said. It's about sincerity. For sincerity, ask yourself honestly. She looked directly into my eyes. Were you ever truly sincere with him? I had no answer. For 2 years, I loved Raphael on one side, yet couldn't let go of Bruno on the other. Looking at Tiffany, I gave a bitter smile. You're right. It was my fault. Raphael deserves better. I hope you'll be happy. And the days that followed proved they really were.